Hey guys, can y'all hear me? Just making sure. Let me know in the chat. Okay, good, good, good. So, the only person this live streaming is JLR. He has said that people can use his feed, but I don't feel right doing it. I'm not out there sweating in the heat but anyway, so just let's just recap for those of you that haven't followed along today what's been going on. A few hours ago, some sheriff's office looks like investigators have Pima County Sheriff's Office went back to Nancy Guthrie's house. They kind of, and I've got my feed up here so I can show some photos that maybe doesn't look like a sewer, like a sewage thing because he's not wearing like protective gear. It could be like water retention or like water storage. They that seemed to have wrapped up. However, most currently, they've shown up at some neighbors' houses, and it seems like they were walking with purpose. And if you go behind the house, apparently there is some kind of construction going on. They tried to get the neighbors to I'm gonna play this video here. Let me maximize. There we go. This is the neighbor's house. They knocked on the front door, back door, didn't get anybody to come. And so they put up a drone. And according to what I'm hearing from people on the ground, it really seems like it's kind of heated up here. So I'm not sure. Here's a feed from earlier with the that initial search where they're searching in that little retention pond or not retention pond. A local said it may be water storage because they're hooked up to sewage. So, yeah, but the neighbors did say they did not think that was sewage. Okay, so it seems like the reason they were at the neighbor's house was because of a trespassing complaint. There's a lot of media in the area. So this is from earlier today. Last night they searched Annie Guthrie's home for around 2.5 to 3 hours. They were inside taking photos, came out with an evidence bag. One of the investigators came out with gloves on. So the other thing is Michael Ruiz posted on X that you could hear a lot of like clanging coming from the house. But they left, and I haven't heard of any more activity at Annie's today. There was some rumblings, but I think that was discredited. But this is what they were doing earlier, which is interesting. Things are happening really fast now. If you think about it, yesterday during the day was really quiet. Then we had that video come out right after they show back up at Nancy's. Then they go to Annie's. And then this morning, this is probably the longest law enforcement has stayed on scene yet. So, yeah, I think they're getting there, y'all. And honestly, I have no clue. I don't know. I mean, I know some of you guys, we all have our opinions, but to be honest, I'm really kind of just clueless. We don't know if that search at the house was done with consent or did they get a search warrant? We just don't know. And then let me show you. Michael Ruiz posted this here is like this shows the southwest area of Catalina Foothills, which is the area Nancy's home is in. If you remember yesterday that the FBI was seen carrying what looked to be a rolled up map into the sheriff's office. So we don't know if this is it, but yeah, clearly something's going on. And then the director of the FBI had a pre-scheduled trip to Tucson for tomorrow. But apparently they're hearing rumblings he may make us have a press conference. So is it possible we could have an arrest tomorrow? Maybe by tomorrow. I mean, it just seems like things are heating up really, really quickly. So I'm just monitoring Twitter feeds and then other feeds that y'all can't see on my 2 computers and my iPad to make sure we're staying up to date, but I figure it's better to go live and kinda just instead of everybody refreshing Twitter feeds. This is, if you have, premium on X, it's really cool. You can, just put in columns your feeds that you wanna monitor, and then it auto refreshes so you don't have to hit anything, and then you can go, just kinda go through everybody, but yeah, clearly stuff's happening. Right, they're on sewer. Okay, yeah. Oh, thanks, retired RN. Brian is the best on the ground. Yeah, they seem to be focusing on the wooded area behind her home. The last few times they've been out, that's where they kind of automatically go. But I tell you what, I don't buy that she is far away from Tucson if she's still alive. I really don't. You think about the risk of transporting an 84-year-old woman who is injured and has been kidnapped. You risk being in an accident, you risk getting pulled over. I don't think she's that far. Polly, no. Nobody has seen him in days. News daddy, I know that's what everybody calls him. So, yeah, I'm just, seeing if anything updates. So Michael Ruiz just posted on here, the more people I speak with, the more are saying this is how cesspools go around here, including the location in the backyard, so but it seems to me like at some point they probably I know there was a report there was a dog on scene. A cadaver dog would have hit on something even if it's down in that. So maybe they're just looking for evidence in there or there's something. We know 5% of what's really happening, and that's pretty standard. Um, yeah, I'm not sure, Cape. I really haven't looked into him very much, to be honest. But clearly I need to. But I'm trying to reserve judgment until the FBI tells me something. I'm trying to listen into a scanner and also a live feed and reading your comments. I've checked the jail website, Polly. They don't have to list him. I've checked federal and local. I don't see anything. Yeah, so they're getting a lot of trespassing complaints over there. Hey, Shayna. Yeah, I'm not saying anything about a suspect because I don't want to get sued either. Hey, Laura, thank you. Yeah, I did upload that video early in the week after that announcement, but I took it down because just for me personally, I'd rather wait till law enforcement actually names a suspect before I do because that's just how I roll. But I also don't have contacts or informants and stuff. So, um, but yeah, for me personally, I would rather wait until we have official word from law enforcement about an arrest. We're not going to hear they have a suspect. That's not going to be announced. With Brian Koberger, either they had arrested him or they were really close to arresting him, and there was a presser where they said, "We have no suspect." They're not gonna tell us we're on to anybody. The next you'll hear there's an arrest, and you may have a tweet 10 minutes before that from the sheriff's office saying, "We have no suspect or person of interest," but, you never wanna tip off a potential suspect. I can guarantee you people are being watched, very closely wherever they are, but we have heard that, Savannah and her siblings are not at that home. Um, Mabel, I think it could be anything, to be honest. It didn't look severe, which is good. I don't know what was found in the house as far as blood evidence, but I also thought about skin tears, and I talked about this on an episode I did not too long ago, just dealing with Grammy's very thin skin. When she would have a skin tear, it would bleed profusely for 30 minutes sometimes, and the drip pattern on my floor, which I have hardwood floors, it was very similar to what I saw in front of her house. And if you look at photos of Mrs. Guthrie, kind of from the elbows down, she has the bruised arms, probably on blood thinners, which makes the bleeding worse. Who knows? But, the encouraging thing is even the sheriff indicated that in the house, there wasn't enough biological evidence, AKA blood, to make him think that she had any kind of a life-threatening injury just based on what he saw on scene. So, when you're on blood thinners, it's just you can barely tap your arm on like a door frame and you're gonna gush. Yep. Blood thinners are, in fact, Grammy had to go off of them a few times. There's just multiple sheriff's officers there on scene. But I don't s nobody else has a live feed. Like, Law& Crime doesn't have one, and I'm not gonna share somebody's live feed when they're out there sweating it and doing their thing. Um, so I thought we'd just sit in here and chat and just as updates come in, we'd talk about them. I got if you guys could see my little, you guys could see my little, setup here. I have 4 screens going. I've got the police radio on silent, but I've got it being transcribed so I can read anything. They did close our road off recently. It was the sheriff's office, but I looked on Google Maps. It's really heavily populated with like RV parks and probably just an accident or something like that. We've been monitoring FlightAware. So I'm in a WebEx group with my friend Troy and a few other people. And it's a really cool thing where we all gather and it's kind of like having this group FaceTime, but you don't have to be on camera, which I don't, because that means I have to put makeup and my bra on. But it's really cool because we can all upload new things and have it in the central location. And then we kind of designate what each other's going to look at. And then we can just talk whenever we want. And it's very cool. It kind of streamlines it if you have a group like that to work with. I've had a blast. We've been staying up half the night monitoring stuff. So if I don't see something here, then sometimes I might miss something and it's on um oh, I'm sorry, Troy. My microphone's on. Anything new going on? Yeah. I saw some looky-loos because I looked in the front windshield and there were like you could see like an older couple. You see a lot more people taking casual strolls today than ever. And, it's kinda like when people go outside to vacuum the front lawn when the police are across the street. We always laugh and say vacuum because it's, like, pointless, but, yeah, people are starting to ride by. I won't be surprised if the sheriff doesn't close that road off at some point, at least to through traffic. Yeah, a lot of people are giving the sheriff flack for being at the ball game last night. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got off time. Yeah, essentially, yeah. Thank you, Cheryl, for doing that. Yeah, so I moved my WebEx to the phone so it wouldn't come in over the speakers because sometimes we all talk and it gets really loud. But let's see if I'm gonna go in another tab and see. Sometimes Fox News has a drone in the air, which is a good shot. I mean, they've been on it with that. Nope, their drone is not up right now. So they're just having some trespassing complaints according to JLR. So it may get quiet in here as updates, but I'm nonstop looking for new stuff. Let me see if there's any, news feeds on YouTube. I don't mind sharing news feeds. By the way, February 11th at 8:30, I'll be live streaming Murdaugh's oral arguments for his conviction appeal, so set your alarms. There's a ton of people live doing tarot reads on the case, but not anybody doing news. I mean, there are people doing news, but yeah, it's been, fast and furious the last couple of days, and it's like, bam, the letter comes out, they run to Nancy's house, then they go over to, Annie's house, stay 2.5 to 3 hours. That's kind of my big pause right now is, just talking off the cuff. Is it a case where they say, "Hey, we just need to go in and clear your house and be sure"? Yes, you can have at it. Or did they get a search warrant and say, "You guys need to leave. We're gonna search this house." Who knows? But I have to say, I mean, the ransom letters, it seems to be that they're taking them seriously. So it's just kinda hard to know. I mean, it's like there's so many different ways this could go. But whatever's going on, we're getting close, I think. But you guys have to admit, man, this investigation's been really disorganized, discombobulated, just, a hot mess. You go 5 days and you're missing a camera that is in plain view in the backyard you've been in. Now, is it that maybe that camera was put up there to watch the property? Maybe, but still, I just, you know, opening that crime scene, what, 15 hours after she's missing, maybe even less. It's just a lot of things have not been handled properly. And now that the FBI is on board, it's going to be a little more tight, of course. But all right, so I don't see anybody live on YouTube, any news stations. Yeah, they're yelling at the sheriff for being there. Nothing new from Brian. JLR is talking about the trespassing complaints. So a lot of activity at the house, but just not a lot of information coming out. We don't know if they're inside the home. All right. What do you guys think? I'm going to read some of these comments. Yeah, Sandy, I did see that part of the blood in the middle that wasn't like the gravity drops that did look like somebody could have been coughing up blood. Here's the thing. We know she made it home that night. A lot of people have been saying, I bet she never left the house, their house. But her pacemaker has to connect to the base. Yeah, so there's a base at the house. If it's one of the more modern, and I suspect it is because she had the app that was tied to her Apple Watch and her iPhone. It's actually on your iPhone, and you can use the Apple Watch for secondary stuff like doing EKGs and getting your heart rate. But so the pacemaker had to connect to the base in the house to record that I think it was 2:23 AM event that happened, which was that spike, and that was the last time it connected. So, if you go from when the doorbell was taken to when her pacemaker last pings, it's between 40 and 45 minutes. So what do I think? My opinion, were they taking her devices and deleting the local storage of any sign of them on the property? Because we know she didn't have a subscription, it didn't go to the cloud. I have questions about that. Maybe we'll find out. But I think they were taking things off of her phone that may have shown them come on property. And, after every letter, if you notice, they go back on property at Nancy's. So I think whatever's in these letters is sending them back out to validate whatever's in these letters. Um, so, I know people are leaning a couple of ways with this in their theories, but to me, still, it's just, I think the search last night, though, spoke volumes at the sister's house. Looked like they took in a folding table and then another briefcase, looks like a forensics kit. And that does, the ones I've seen are fingerprints. So they were in the garage. You could see the flashes. Have you guys seen that video of the flashes that are happening in the garage area? I can pull that up if you haven't. Yeah, and then you have the garage door open and close. And I also wonder, why are we towing her car 6 days or 5 days in, 5, 6 days in? It was 5 days. Things should have been secured, and that crime scene should have never been cleared. It should have remained a crime scene until we have a resolution. It's too late for that now. So, play that. Okay, so let me find the videos of that. I know who had a longer. Yeah, Sarah Whitten. All of these are my go-tos on the ground. Let's see. We'll see if this is the 2-minute one. Yeah, this is it. So I'm gonna start this over. Right at the very beginning, you see a flash. There you go. See that flash? That's the garage area. So I'm just let this play. You see, they're in the dark. Why would you take crime scene photos in the dark? There are actually several reasons you would. Number one, it's just you don't have cast off light, so it's much better for getting these small details in the photos, like fibers, hair, anything like that. It's a higher resolution and the light is more evenly distributed. I wrote something down for an episode about this. I'm trying to find it, but let's see. We just going off the cuff here. You're gonna have to bear with me. So you can see those occasional flashes, but you also see see how they're looking around with flashlights and they do not have an overhead light on? I think they probably were spraying luminol in there. Yeah.
People got shot at a lot more. They would understand the whole turn your headlights thing.
You guys should have heard the coyotes in the distance last night. I'll pull that clip up too. It's crazy. So, what are some reasons that you would take crime scene photos in the dark? It's good for controlling the lighting. You can highlight specific objects like blood drops, footprints, that kind of thing. You reduce shadows, avoid color casts from room lights or street lamps, and you keep the exposure consistent across photos. And it gives you really a total light control of your environment. Also, to make evidence pop, bloodstains, fibers, shoe impressions, and tool marks often show up better when light hits them from a low angle or a single direction. So, investigators will turn off the light, sweep the area with an angled flash or oblique lighting, and that captures textures that would disappear when overhead bulbs are shining down. They also will turn out the lights to use a blue light, UV light, or like I said, to look for any kind of evidence of blood cleanup or blood stains with luminol. Also, the crime scene, it just reduces glare and reflections. So it's just better contrast, revealing hidden evidence using those forensic light sources. And it's a lot better for the courtroom when you're showing this evidence on screen. I'm going to play these coyotes yelling for you guys. Brian Enton tweeted about it. When I was in Phoenix for Lori Daybell's trial, I went to the Grand Canyon twice on a day trip. One was with my daughter, so it was the two of us. But then when I went back for Brandon Boudreaux's trial, I went by myself for another day trip, and I was in the middle of the desert. I mean, it was so dark. You couldn't see past your headlights, but the stars were amazing. So I pulled over in the middle of the desert and got on the hood of my car to stargaze just for like 30 minutes, and you could hear these coyotes, and it was insane. So I'm gonna play this. This is from JLR Investigates. Listen to this.
Whoa. Yo, this is outside the home of Annie and Tommaso, and there's coyotes.
Hey, Dorothy.
Gordy's.
Is that not crazy? I mean, they sound so close, but sometimes when I heard them, it sounded like people were screaming. And so after a while, like 30 minutes, I got so freaked out, I got in my car and left. But yeah, so they're hearing all that at night, which adds, a whole other element of just this weird kind of ominous feeling, I guess. So I'm just refreshing to see anything news happen. I just don't see much, but at least not from people that are there. I wish the drone was up. I would stream that. So, and I guess you guys heard that the ransom amount was for 6 million. Not sure how Bitcoin works. I've heard it could be an astronomical amount if it's 6 million in Bitcoin or something, but I'm not sure how that goes. So, yeah, and that's the other thing is, we heard originally that the alarm was raised when she did not show up for church, but there were also reports, and I know the Daily Mail put it out, that she had been watching virtually from home since COVID. So I'm interested to know, is that true? Did anybody call, or did somebody say they called and then that wasn't um I mean, it would be easy for the person who said they got that call to give their phone over and say, "Here's the call." And Matt Finn just posted, and this is a good reminder, don't forget law enforcement does not have to publicly identify any of its leads or suspects, and that's strategic. I don't expect to hear a suspect or they have one until we have an actual arrest, but I am updating the arrest record or the arrests in Pima County and federal. Although we just talked about, they don't have to name somebody. They don't have to put them in the system. Sometimes it takes a little while. They want to get things settled down with them and make their press conference, but my guess would be we're close. It does sound like kids screaming, yeah. Prima, sometimes it's not that bad. You could hear sirens in the distance, and they'll get louder with the sirens, but, when I was in Arizona, I stayed in the middle of the desert for a few nights, and you would hear them randomly. I was laying in the bed, and it sounded like they were getting closer and closer, and I'm like, "This is a horror movie where I'm gonna wake up and there's, like, 1,000 coyotes around my house, and I can't ever get out." Because it just sounded like they got closer, but there are a ton of them. I mean, I've never heard it where it's just 1 or 2. It's like the pack, and plus, this is also mating season from what I understand, so they're hollering, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" I can't imagine what this family's going through. I mean, oh, Peachy, the flu is no joke. I had it about a year ago. I was like, "Let me just make my final arrangements." That's how bad I felt. And then you see here, Brian Ensign posted last night, "I've never in my life heard coyotes like this. This is insane." So, also FBI director coming to Tucson tomorrow for a pre-planned trip, but I did hear rumblings he may do a press conference, so that again, that's why I kinda think, do we see something in the next 24 hours as far as an arrest? Um, I'm looking at sometimes it's hard for them to live stream out there because you get so much media in one area and it can interfere. Also, the one thing I learned in Phoenix is your phone will overheat really, really quickly, and that drained my battery. So, sometimes too, if your phone overheats, it just stops working. I know I had a live stream just hang up and go dark. So, it's hard for them to stream out there, although I don't think it's really hot right now. It is let's see what the temperature is in Tucson. It's 80. It's not bad. Feels like 83, and there's a 7-mile-an-hour wind with 11-mile-an-hour gusts, so not too hot out there. This is like prime time in Arizona. Every time I would step outside the courthouse for Lori Daybell, I would just start to glisten like one of those vampires immediately. And then if you're outside and you have a hot flash, like, that's a whole other story. Like you're a little rotisserie chicken. See, I would love to just have coyotes in the background, in the distance, howling. That would be so cool. Oh, the hot flashes in Phoenix, when you're wearing, like, a blazer and a pair of pants so you don't look like a bum in court. Yeah, Imma tell you right now, somebody was like, "Do you wanna do a hit with our news station?" I'm like, "Do I look like I'm in any condition to do a hit?" Like, it was pouring off of me. I was like, "I would love to, but, I would probably become a meme." Yeah, I love Arizona Venus Gal. I just fell in love with it when I was out there for Lori's trials, and I'll be going back this year for some projects, but really looking forward to it. And I found out you can go to Joshua Tree pretty like the same distance as the Grand Canyon. So I may skip the Grand Canyon and go to Joshua Tree. All right, let's refresh and see anything new. Seems a little quiet right now. Looks like maybe um and I mean, look, shout out to JLR because he has had the best live feeds of anybody out there, nonstop, showing what's up. Lots of media in front of Nancy's house right now, lining the street. A couple of sheriff's deputies are kind of just guarding, which makes me wonder, are they waiting on a search warrant at this point? They came and did that search, but I'm curious with the security there, it's been there for a few hours. I won't be surprised if we see a lot more activity here at some point. Hey, beautiful. Good to see you. I haven't been to Scottsdale, Shannon. I need to go. And I'm sorry if I sound weird. I'm a little stuffy today. And they're saying we may get snow again Friday. Like, what the heck? South Carolina, we usually have like very mild winters in the 50s for the last 2 weekends in a row. Well, except for this one. We did like 3 inches of sleet and then 7 inches of snow last weekend. I'm ready for summer. Sedona is beautiful. I went on a solo to Sedona. I went to the Chapel of the Holy Cross, probably one of the coolest places I've ever been in my life. I don't care if you're religious or not. Walking in that place, they have like monks that are, it's like a recording, but they're singing, or not monks, but like priests. Really beautiful music. And it's really warm in there with the candles because you can light a candle. And then you've got the really tall Jesus, and you stand on the footprints and look up, and you're looking right at Jesus. It's really, really cool. I stayed in there for like an hour and a half. Michael Ruiz just had a good tweet that goes along with what we were talking about a suspect. Um, Building on what Matt Finn said, in fact, they usually don't before an arrest has been made unless they need help finding them. Police knew Brian Koberger's name for 11 days before they stormed his parents' house to stop him from destroying evidence. So, yeah, I mean, it would be reckless for them to say we have a suspect, because let's just say it's not somebody that's known to them right now. Although I think differently at this point with this activity. But people freak out if it's truly a kidnapping situation. They find out, hey, they're onto us. You know. The other thing I'm thinking about is this. I mean, God hope she's alive. And let's say they get the ransom money and they keep up with their end of the bargain and they're going to return her. How do you do that? Do you just put her in the desert where it's dark in the middle of the night and maybe email the news station, or at least have the compassion she's here? Because you can't take her, you can't drop her off at home. You can't take her anywhere where there would be cameras. So just things I sit here and think about. Yeah, how do you give her back? I mean, that's the only solution I could see, is you take her out in the middle of nowhere in a car that's not obvious, or a car that you've never used in the commission of this crime, and you put her in the middle of the dark. And I hate to say that, but like it is there. When you get out into the desert, you can go 20 miles before you see a residence or a gas station or anything. So, if there are maybe some trail cameras or wildlife cameras out there, but there are plenty of places to just kind of dump her. And then, you would hope they would let somebody know that she's there. That's the only way I could see it. People were thinking maybe a small plane, and I'm like, it's an airport. You're not going to take a kidnapped 84-year-old to a tarmac and get her on a plane. And I don't think you drive 8 to 12 hours with somebody who's kidnapped and bleeding and sick in your car. I think she's closer than a lot of people think. Send the Uber to the sheriff of the hospital. Yeah, I mean, there you go. Call, Yeah, I want to go to Joshua Tree, say Brad, Marsha. It's a hoax, ransom by a smart nut. Yeah, I do think they'll catch these people. You know what I tweeted out yesterday? I watched a documentary on these teenagers who, excuse me, I gotta mute. I gotta cough my lung up. I really hope I'm not getting another cold. But it was a documentary that was fascinating. It's these kids that just started hacking when they were 12. Well, by the time they're 15, they're hacking into the FBI, the CIA's website. And even people in tech in the government could not find these kids forever. And so obviously they're worried. Sensitive information could be breached, put out there. They don't know who's doing it. And it's literally a bunch of kids that still live with their parents. And they hack the Xbox servers and put those down for days. I was like, give those kids these emails. They will have a location in like 3.5 minutes. They were hacking into everything, and they were doing it in a way that they couldn't be traced. So y'all need to put some of these kids on on your payroll. Give them a little pocket change. Okay, so we have a new statement from the sheriff's office. At the request of the Guthrie family, the Pima County Sheriff's Department will maintain a presence at Nancy Guthrie's residence for security purposes going forward. It's about time. Members of the media and the public are reminded that all traffic laws and private property laws must be followed. No trespassing is allowed on Nancy Guthrie's property. And of course, violations will be subject to law enforcement. So good call. Probably should have had that presence there since day one through the sheriff's office, but also it kind of, is an indication too that they are really focusing on something at that house because they have not left that house. Let's see when we got the first indication they were there. And the sheriff did say investigation active at multiple locations today. This right here is the map that shows the area she's in. And that might have been what was rolled up, being seen, taken into the sheriff's office by the FBI yesterday. It's about that size. Could have been anything, but makes sense. So this is just the land, the lay of the land. Forgot to show you guys that. Let's see here. Okay, so when did they go today? So they've had a presence there for 5 hours, had that initial search, and there's still several deputies on scene. I don't think they're actively searching at this point. This just freaked everybody out. When we first saw that, we were like, oh no, not that. If anybody's live on YouTube again, y'all gonna watch the Super Bowl? Really don't care about it this year. But my folks are grilling burgers and doing their famous sausage dip. So I'll be there for that. Yeah, JLR is the only one streaming. So if you want to put in another browser, pull up JLR Investigates. He's the only one live streaming right now. Actually, Lens Media is also on YouTube. Let's see here. Look how few they got. Yeah, rough feed, constantly buffering. I would have that problem when there was a lot of press. Like at the Murdaugh trial, I could never get a signal out when I was standing in front of that courthouse. Here's another photo from today. Just kind of coordinating there. He's comfy. This is the evidence recovery team's truck. So it's got all the stuff that was seen at Annie Guthrie's the night they went for 5 minutes and went beside the house without going in, and then they left, which I thought was interesting because they had just left Nancy's house if it was the same truck. But yesterday it was three sheriff's cars. But the sheriff can go in and do the photographs and the fingerprinting or whatever they were doing. I mean, that's kind of basic stuff. It frees the feds up to do their job. Oh, is Green Day performing? Oh, sausage dip is amazing. So you put like corn, like those huge blocks of Velveeta cheese, cooked sausage. I'm not sure what else. And then you just use like those Tostito dips. I can eat until I am sick. I have to stop myself. Tastes good, but my stomach's like, girl, we're full down here. What I can do is pull up while we're waiting on some new news because I can. Let's just watch this. We'll just keep this up on the screen. It's about 36 minutes long. I'm going to kind of scour to see if there's any other sources posting anything, and I will be back. One thing a neighbor did come up and say was that she noticed watching some of this drone footage that that roof is very clean. She said it doesn't take long for these roofs to get really dirty. That was also where the camera was found, right in that area where you see that detached building where the air conditioner is. That's where that camera was. They're kinda zooming in. It was facing straight across the backyard. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. She just noted that that roof seemed really clean. And another thing is she did have some emergency electrical work done last month. There were some permits my friend found for that. He also found she owned part of a mining business from 88 to 2001. She was listed as the secretary, but also, I believe, owned a stake in it. And she was on a journalism board or something. So she was very active, working woman, clearly making her way. Could be, people, this is a worldwide case. So I'm sure anybody who's been to that house recently has probably been talked to or reached out. You see that terrain, though? She had to have gone out the front door. There's nowhere to put a car behind her house. And when I was hiking in an area kinda like that, what it looks like back in the distance, and these little bushes, man, I, like, ripped my pants. It is rough terrain. But I love these drone footage. They land because I'll tell you what, I'm gonna send Fox News some money for some new batteries for their drone because they have to land it all the time. They got their batteries at the Dollar Tree. Yeah, her family don't think is involved. Yeah, I mean, there are some people who do and some who don't. I think last night, really, with that search at the sister's house, that sort of got everybody's antennas up for sure. But like I said, could have been consensual. We just don't know. And the other thing too is they haven't gone back today in force. So, it's possible they found nothing. Yeah, but Aphrodite, I'm not sure if you were here when we were talking about whether or not she left the daughter's house. That pacemaker had to connect to her base to get that last ping from it. And I mean, unless they took the base to that house, but I doubt it. I do believe she made it home. You have the garage door open, then it shut 2 minutes later, and the last ping. So the cardiologist I talked to said that in order to send information to your cardiologist, you have to be near your base. And then every night between 2 and 3, it downloads the day's data and sends that to your doctor. But I think it's more 3 o'clock, so she probably didn't send that to her doctor, or that wasn't sent to her doctor that day. But the last ping was what, 2:23 or something like that. So it really establishes their timeline. And the blood on the porch, I've seen people say it could be planted. There's so many conspiracy theories out there that, like, I just avoid them like the plague, but it's a lot of work to go plant a bunch of evidence. But then again, it's the middle of the night and it is dark out there. You guys don't understand how dark it is unless you've been there at night. The Apple Watch really isn't tied to the pacemaker, so it's tied to an app on your phone. But my understanding is through the Apple Watch, you can do your own EKGs and things like that, or you can pull up the app from the phone onto the Apple Watch. But the Apple Watch is kind of a paperweight when it comes to correlating with the pacemaker, is how it was explained to me. Um, You can get updates if it's compatible, if that app's compatible with your Apple Watch, but you really can't do anything directly related to the pacemaker. And the app on the phone, my understanding is just it shows you your activities of when the pacemaker had to work for your heart or when you're beating on your own and things like that. Yeah, Agatha, that's my question is, 84 years old, that is a big undertaking to abduct somebody that age. You have to account for her poor health. I feel like whoever did this was familiar with her. Yeah, it's a burden, and I hate to say that because nobody who's elderly is a burden, but to kidnap an 84-year-old, it is a different it's just different. You have a lot more, you know, going on. And she has cardiac issues by default, so yeah, I don't know, y'all. I go back and forth, but to see if there's any new updates from anybody. So this footage, just a reminder, from earlier today, this is not live. This is what was happening when everybody descended there a few hours ago. I need to put my glasses on, but I think it's A to B. Yeah, I mean, there are so many possibilities right now that we don't know of who would do this, but the motive is key. You always look inward than outward. So you look at the last people to be with her, then you look at family, then you start looking at who's been to her house to do work. But this with Savannah being a celebrity, it does complicate it because you don't know. Although I do remember law enforcement saying a few days ago they did not think that this abduction was related to Savannah, but again, that's probably just a theory. The way the ransom notes have been described is just very to the point. I've heard people say this has the markings of a very skilled kidnapping crew. A lot of ex FBI people that have been on shows say this really, the simple fact that you can't trace these ransom notes. I mean, a lot of people are very tech savvy, and, I probably could figure out a way to send an email where it wouldn't trace back to me, use a VPN, and use something like Proton Email, which is really hard to find traces of. But still, there are ways. And the fact that as far as we know, but then you have Trump on Air Force One saying, we're close. Oh, you have to look at everybody. Yeah, for sure. Anybody who knew her, or had regular contact with her. But this is somebody who knew her schedule. No doubt they were staking out, stalking her, watching her patterns. If it's somebody relatively unknown. So this was about 4 hours ago that this drone was up. So they sent the ransom to one local station and one essentially a worldwide news outlet. Um, the reach with them is wide. So if you want to get the message out real quick that you have Nancy Guthrie you're claiming to, um, definitely strategic on their part while they sent to local and then national. And that's happened before, you know, where, serial killers will send stuff to news outlets instead of the police, or there was another case somebody brought up on a talk show where the ransoms were sent to media. I think that may be a way to show the family that you're serious. And we don't know what the family has received. My theory yesterday was they got something. Because the way that was worded, and I totally believe all of these videos they've made have been very controlled by the FBI. Um, but when she said, "We understand," that was something that for me meant more than just "we understand." So, you know, proof of life doesn't have to be a photo or a video. It could be, okay, your mom says that when you guys went on vacation in '82, this happened, and there's your proof of life. Something that isn't widely known except for within their crew. You know, there are a lot of ways you can do a proof of life. And they very well could have gotten their own that wasn't sent out to media, especially now that the deadline's getting close. You're looking at 5 o'clock tomorrow is what KGUN is reporting, and they got one of the letters. So and they reported on that last night. We had not heard about the amount or the time for the deadline because they were not putting that out. There we go. Let's look at the ants, y'all. Do they have ants out there? Maybe it's a southern thing. And you don't realize how big those cactus are. I put, my phone on a timer and stood at the bottom of a cactus, and, it was let me see if I can pull that picture up. Why is my cat eating dog food? There's, like, cat food right there. Hey. Oh, yeah, I found it. Let's see if I can put that on screen. These things are so huge. I was surprised. Let this cat I'm gonna put this picture on screen in a minute of me in front of the cactus. You can barely see me. So I'm looking at JLR's feed. Just looks like some looky-loos driving down the road. Media, as far as the eye can see. Must be a neighbor's house there. Oh, you guys see this picture? I don't know if that's on your screen or not, but yeah, so you can see, and that was one of the shorter ones. I mean, those things are so tall, and the spikes on some of these, they would go straight through you. They're so big. Yeah, I mean, and that was a smaller one. They're big, but you see that terrain? I mean, it is rough. My legs, I look like I have been in a cat fight. I mean, I thought I was walking like a kind of a bare path, but there'd be one little thing sticking up with thorns that would attack my leg. Yeah, I did see that that Nancy had not been to church since COVID. I'd seen a report. I don't know if that's been verified, but yeah, it makes sense. A lot of people, you know, figured out, hey, I don't have to get dressed up and go talk to people, so I can just do this from home. I would love confirmation of whether or not she was attending in person, but check Twitter. Hey, buddy. Got all my animals coming in to say, hey. Hi, guys. Okay, so SF Investigates posted. A source told the Daily Mail. Okay, yeah. So that was what we were just talking about. She had been worshiping online. Church leaders said they could not quantify or confirm if anyone from the church made the call to report Nancy as missing. That's my question. I mean, if you can't find somebody or provide a number or have a digital footprint of a call alerting you she wasn't at church, and the online system, it's kind of like what I'm doing now. So unless you're commenting, I cannot. Aphrodite, yeah, that this drone sucks a lot, and it could be to the environment that drains the battery faster. The fact that they're streaming in. River, you're gonna have to go back out if you're gonna try to interrupt here. But that's one thing I'm sure they vetted as far as the church call. Let me mute my mic. I think somebody's about to bust up in my door. That's the thing. I was also thinking about Amber. If God forbid she was dumped, there is a lot of wildlife. We heard the coyotes and stuff. And it's just one of those things where it's such a vast area. It just goes on and on and on, an open desert. It would be very difficult to find her. My friend's asking a local to Arizona about these manholes. Do you have two normally? Okay, thanks, Michelle. I'm not used to most septic tanks have two holes with covers. Yeah, and they were pretty close together, so that could be what it was. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all that stuff. A Temu drone? Yeah, for real. Yeah, my daughter just walked in, so my dogs went crazy. Someone said these homes are on city sewer, but may have holding tanks for water. That's what somebody else had put as well. Afton, one of the neighbors actually talked to JLR and thought it was a water tank, like a water holding tank. But there's so much we don't know, Tiffany. You're absolutely right. I say we know 5% of what they do. Exactly. I will not be surprised if at any point Twitter blows up and we find out something huge, but it would be nice just to not have to cut grass. I mean, I may move to Arizona for that reason alone. Yeah, nobody's really updating their X feed right now, so. For those of you that have joined since we started this is not live, by the way. This was earlier today at Nancy's house. They came out, looked into two. We don't know if they're sewer holes or water holders or whatever you call them. But if you look here, it's really not super far from the house to the road. It looked further on video, but the aerial shot, I mean, it curves, but you can still see from the road for sure. And then you wonder, why was there not a trail of blood in the dirt or in the gravel? It stopped where all of the little tiles were down. Did they pick her up? Because we know it's been said she couldn't walk, 150 meters alone. A lot of questions. And unfortunately, some we may never know. The JLR's feeds just shot at the back of the sheriff's vehicle and then just media staging. It's interesting when you're out there like this, just kind of waiting around. You get to know so many people. It's cool. Nice to meet other people. Hey, Phil. No, that's true. Beautiful. You're not going to see nothing at night. Couple of people there on scene have taken their cameras at night and just went down the road. In fact, if you go after this, we can pull up that feed from last night from Annie's house. You can see past the lights from the media. It's just pitch black. You can see a bit of the city in the background, but yeah, no, it's a different kind of dark. When I was driving back from the Grand Canyon, I had this irrational fear that like an animal was suddenly going to jump out in front of me or because you just can't see. I mean, it's just past your lights. It's just dark. But man, the stars, y'all, it is something else. I've been up in the Smokies where there's no light pollution, saw some good stuff, but ain't nothing like the stars in the middle of the desert. I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, I'm gonna pull over and just get on the hood of my car. I'd rented a Jeep because that's what I drive here at home. I drive a Jeep truck. I was like, I want a car I'm comfortable with. They always end up getting me these little Chevy Malibus, and they're low riders, and I'm always nervous. So I did get a Jeep that time, and they were like, "Are you crazy? This is how like horror movies start. A girl alone in the desert." I think it might be coming back down. What beautiful views. There we go. Battery's dead. So yeah, this is where this one ends. And they haven't come back live yet. So let's check our Twitter feeds, y'all. Anything new? Nothing. I don't know that I've seen this. See how dark it is though, just in the distance. You see how dark it is. Oh, somebody about to drop their stuff. Oh, wow. Some that was the last guy you see here. They didn't show it. Another feed, you see him, he has those blue gloves on. The second guy to leave, there were 3 cars there, 3 people. First guy I don't think he had anything. The second guy had that big, looked like a briefcase. It looked to me like a folding table. Also, there was a smaller one, and those can be forensic kits where you do like fingerprints and stuff. And then the third officer that came out had the gloves on, and I think the first did have an evidence bag. That was reported in the evidence bag. They've also hired private security there at Annie's as well. So Nancy and Annie's house both have private security. I guess at this point, the sheriff's office is going to take over. It's so dark there. That would be some good sleeping though. Not worrying about any kind of light coming in. But then you got the coyotes. And then here's just a shot from the drone showing them down in that thing there. There's somebody else here, y'all. Let me see. Oh. Okay, that was my daughter's boyfriend. He went to the side entrance. Yeah, so been a week. So yeah, trespassing complaints, kind of the latest. There's not much going on. We might end this for a while, and then if something heats up, we'll go live again. But right now, it seems pretty quiet. I'm looking at JLR's feed, nothing going on there. Too dark for you to sleep? I'm going through some comments here. Can you think of one reason for taking photos of at Annie's if they're not suspects? Well, I mean, I would say they have a reason to be there, and they were there for quite some time, and they were seen. I know Brian Enton said that they were in different parts of the house, and they could see flashes, and it was consistent. So they were consistently taking photos. My guess would be a search warrant, but on the other hand, entirely possible that they gave consent for them to go in and say, hey, this is the last place she was. We need to do we need to do some forensic testing, take some photos, and she could have given consent. But we just don't know yet. But I'm going to tell you, with the activity that started after the video, them going to Nancy's, them going to Annie's, staying for 2.5 to 3 hours, and then back at Nancy's today and going to very detailed areas on our properties. I just think there's something brewing, and I think it's all connected. And I'm not saying anybody's a suspect. I'm just saying, but is it possible that they went there with no search warrant and only went with consent? Yeah. I mean, but I would venture a guess they're going to have a search warrant just to be safe. If this goes to trial at some point, well, we had a search warrant. We went through, we talked to a judge, we gave our probable cause, and we got it the right way. I don't think they would just take consent. So I would think, either way, probably a search warrant. So yeah. But I'm not an attorney. Brian is live on News Nation. Okay, well, let me see what he is saying. I can't stream that because I'll get copyrighted, but let's see what Brian's saying. I will relay. So they're just showing the video of Savannah and her siblings saying, we'll pay. I'm going to put the iPad close to the mic so y'all can at least hear. Oh, my finger.
Appeal for their mother's safe return, promising to meet potential abductors' demands. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie missing for 1 week today. Investigators are at a critical point in the search, but still no suspect, investigators say. And new details on a tragedy in Indiana.
Okay. Now we're getting Brett Favre giving his opinion on the Super Bowl. Who y'all got, by the way?
I think that it will be there.
Who y'all got? Yeah, because I know TMZ vetted that Bitcoin address they gave, and it was a real one. Here we go.
For you, News Nation has live TV coverage. We have Xavier Stadium House ahead of a busy week for President Donald Trump. And Brian Enton joins us live from Tucson, Arizona, as authorities continue searching for Nancy Guthrie. Well, good afternoon to all of you at home. I'm Anna Koyman here in New York City. It's Sunday, the 8th of February, 3 o'clock on the East Coast. and it's time for News Nation Live. So this urgent search to locate Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, it continues. Now entering day 8 of the investigation, and the families have this heartbreaking plea. Listen.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
So News Nation's Brian Enton is live for us in Tucson, Arizona, outside the home of Nancy Guthrie, where there is new police activity on the scene today. Brian, and now, so you've got that activity going on, and then last night you were up late, and you say there was also police activity going on inside Annie Guthrie's home. What's the latest right now?
He talked about
Yeah, the last 24 hours have been busy really at 2 scenes, here at Nancy Guthrie's, where I am now, and also at Annie Guthrie's, which is Nancy's other daughter, which is about 10 minutes away from here. Let me start with what's happening at Nancy's. Just within the last hour and a half or so, sheriff's deputies arrived here once again, and they went into the backyard, and they had a long pole, and we noticed that they took off a manhole cover, and then they were sticking the pole down into the ground. Now, we presume it is some kind of septic tank that they were searching, something that we haven't seen them do before. They've been back here over and over again. I mean, remember, they set up a crime scene a couple of nights ago and searched the inside of the house, and they were up on the roof. They were here a few days before that searching, and now they were back again today. But today, the focus really seemed to be that septic tank here at Nancy's house. Okay, let me take you over to Annie's house now, which again is about 10 minutes from here. I was there late last night. Where really out of nowhere, the sheriff's deputies showed up at Annie's house, and they were there for 3 hours late into the night. We watched as they went into the house, and then you just saw that flash there. It was quick, Anna, but there were flashes coming from inside the house. And we presume they were taking pictures inside the house. I saw flashes coming from the windows in the garage, and then I saw them on the other side of the house too. And then you see them coming out there. One of them came out carrying a brown bag, and they were also wearing blue latex gloves. What's so interesting about this is all of this has been happening around the same time that we got confirmation of a second ransom note that was sent to a local TV station. And the reports are now that the ransom is for $6 million. It was around the same time that President Trump came out and spoke on Air Force One and said there's been progress in the investigation. And then, of course, came the new Savannah Guthrie video message where she said that the family will pay. Anna?
Right, and we're learning just how high the price tag these alleged abductors are putting on the safe return of Nancy Guthrie. $6 million, according to a local TV news station. Brian, tell us more about these reported ransom notes, both to TMZ and the local news station.
Yeah, so there's been 2 that we know of, and there could be a third. That's what I'm wondering. Is that what Savannah Guthrie was responding to? Is there a third that we just don't know about? But we know 2 for sure. One came on Tuesday. That's the one where there was specific information about the inside of Nancy Guthrie's home. I'm told something to do with the Apple Watch and the placement of the Apple Watch in the bedroom, and then also a floodlight that was damaged in the backyard. The FBI called those facts that were in the that first ransom note. Then the second one came on Friday, and from what I know, it only went to the local Tucson TV station here. It was a different IP address, but we're told there was a message in that note that connected back to the first note from a few days earlier, Anna.
All right, and Brian, look, local law enforcement, nobody's used to seeing anything like this. We're actually getting a wrap because we need to get some analysis, but continue keeping your nose to the ground there. You're doing a great job reporting. Thank you. Tough story, such a tough story. We're going to welcome our law enforcement panel to the show to analyze all this and the new details that are emerging from the investigation. We've got Jonathan Gilliam. He's right here on your screen, former FBI special agent, former Navy SEAL as well. Running for Congress in Arizona, former Pinal County, Arizona Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff Lamb, Jonathan Gilliam, great to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you as well. Good to be with you, Mark.
Likewise.
Jonathan, this investigation stretching into a full week, still no named suspects. We had another law enforcement official on the show earlier giving some analysis saying perhaps there there could be suspects that we just don't know about? Is that something that's going through your mind, or do you think what we're seeing is what we're getting?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that they're starting to look at things in particular. It's amazing to me in this day and age how we can literally watch. Kind of reminds me of the first Gulf War, where they're sitting there with embedded reporters with the troops. I mean, we're watching what's going on. We're not getting the whole story, but we're watching law enforcement key in on certain aspects of this investigation. Going back to Nancy's house, looking in that hole where there was a septic tank or whatever it was, and then going back to the daughter's house and photographing things. I mean, we can speculate a lot on that, but it is showing us that they are focusing on things that they were not focusing on before, and they're really paying close attention to the house where the abduction occurred, and so that leads me to believe that they either know something or they're diligently collecting more information based on theories that they may have. So, there's still the possibility that this entire ransom is a ruse or someone piggybacking off of a tragic abduction and altercation inside Nancy's house. So that's still yet to be seen, but it is very intriguing to me how they've gone back over now to the other daughter's house, photographed certain things, and then went back to Nancy's house twice now.
And police returning to the scene, to Nancy Guthrie's house, as well as mentioned there what we saw from Brian Enton's report that investigators appeared to be taking pictures inside Annie Guthrie's house. But as far as Nancy Guthrie's home, where she went missing from, we know the Ring doorbell was disconnected and is missing. And Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app disconnected around 2:28 in the morning, that morning of her disappearance. Sheriff Lamb, what kind of clues do you think investigators are going back to look for at this point?
Well, the fact that they're trying to get into the septic tank, and I had received that information this morning as well, not long ago, that they had a large stick, they were digging down into the septic tank. They're going to be looking for something. Maybe they have some information that maybe a phone was flushed down the toilet or something else that might give some more information. But you don't typically dig into a septic tank on something like this. So they're exhausting every resource. They're also going out. They now pulled that footage from the Circle K. There's a lot of roads in and through that neighborhood, but you got to come out to some of those main roads at some point. And they're probably honing in on a lot of that security footage. And maybe they've picked something up from that security camera footage that has them back at the son-in-law's and the daughter's house where they're processing more and pulling more evidence. So like Jonathan said, we are now in this day and age where we are watching cases unfold and seeing the investigation done right before our eyes.
Yeah. And Jonathan, early on, or a couple of days after Nancy went missing, we learned that Border Patrol was involved as well, and just the proximity of Tucson to the Mexico border. Would that have been part of the reason they became involved? If you can hit on that, and also why we haven't been hearing much in the last couple of days.
Well, as Sheriff Lamb will tell you, it's so close to the border there that we don't see this often, but a lot of the crime that you see over in Mexico can bleed over into the United States. And what's interesting is that this Bitcoin scenario with abductions or kidnappings does take place in Mexico quite often, but there's a different type of communication process where they have no problem showing proof of life and the traumatic things that have been done to a person's body in order to facilitate pressure on those that will pay the ransom. So I think the fact that it's that close, that it happens over there, it's something that should definitely be considered. But it's different in the way that they are not communicating in the way that they would over there. The way they are communicating, which is why I keep saying that this could be a ruse, is that they are kind of communicating in the way that you would see a Nigerian scam or an Indian scam from India, where they scam people out of millions of dollars. So I'm seeing hints of that type of online scam, but at the same time, it's difficult to say if this is real. Remember, they can take AI and make any of us look like we're alive or dead at any time.
Yeah, and mentioning that an Apple Watch, charger is by the bed. A lot of people have their Apple Watch charging by their bed. and a busted light, that isn't proof of life. It may be more telling of what is seen at the scene, but it isn't the same thing as seeing Nancy alive and breathing. Sheriff Lamb, last night, the Pima County Sheriff, who's leading this investigation, was spotted at a University of Arizona college basketball game. Do you think local police are equipped to handle such a high-profile case? And should this be alarming to see him out at a game, or does he need to keep living his life?
No, it's not a good look. You got to read a room when you're in a situation like this. This case weighs heavy. I think you owe it to the family to stay focused on the case. Not a great look. And I'm not one to bash other sheriffs, but it's just not a good look. I had many people send that to me last night to tell you proof that it's not a great look. But look, our local law enforcement are very good at what we do. The FBI is very good at what they do. I've been saying this all along, and I don't want to digress into politics, but the importance of working together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement. This is the importance. And we have states that want to kind of sever that relationship between federal law enforcement and state and local law enforcement. So I think this just shows you, this is an example of how important it is to work together. I think that between the FBI, Border Patrol, Pima County, and all the other resources, local resources in that county, and probably from the state, I think they're putting the best investigation. Look, we can go back and say they missed this, they missed that along the way. But in the end, the important thing is that we find Nancy Guthrie. We can't focus on those things right now. We got to focus on getting the job done and finding her and exhausting every resource and everything you can to accomplish that for the family.
Yeah, because we know time is ticking. Former Pinal County, Arizona Sheriff Mark Lamb, former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam, thank you.
Got it.
Okay, now that my arm is numb from holding that iPad up for about 12 minutes, I'm back. Nothing new on Twitter from anybody, so it seems like maybe right now just, it's a wait and see. Pima County just tweeted out 3 minutes ago, again, that they're going to maintain a presence there, which should have been done all week. Yeah, Shirley. I mean, I think everybody can agree that this was not handled, not even close to being proper for the first few days, at least. That home should have been contained and kept guarded until there's a conclusion. But it is what it is. The things I do for y'all. Well, y'all, I love y'all. Do anything for, literally my arm is tingling. I'm shaking it. I don't know why I didn't turn my microphone and just set it on my desk, but I didn't take my ADHD medicine today. I actually have to go get my refill, so I have an excuse. It's valid. Yeah, so not much going on. Let me see if there's anything on YouTube. If there's not, we might just kind of end it here right now, and then maybe later on I'll hop back on and we'll do this again. But I don't want to keep y'all here just twiddling our thumbs if there's nothing going on. Just cars going down the road, doing their looky-loos. Yeah, it seems pretty quiet for the moment. So if anything crazy happens, I will definitely pop back on and we'll chat it out. But thank y'all for hanging out. I appreciate it. Hi, non-rev life. Glad to have you here. Welcome aboard the crazy train. I'm your captain. But yeah, so fingers crossed she's okay. I think that's what everybody just wants to see is, but if you think about it, if she's found alive, she'll never be the same. This family will never be the same. If she's deceased, her family's never going to be the same. There are consequences either way of how this turns out that are huge. And it breaks my heart because, at the end of the day, she is a mother and a grandmother, and y'all know how much I loved my Grammy. And this was actually a big fear of mine when she lived alone. She lived alone till she was 91 before she came to live with me for a year. But I would always be so worried at night, somebody would come in and hurt her. And it wasn't until after she moved in with me, we were talking about being home alone. And I have security cameras and I have, oh, wow. Thank you, Grizzly Bear. That's amazing. So 20 of you guys got a membership thanks to Grizzly Bear Kelly D. And by the way, if you're a member, we're going to do a live here real soon for members only. And then I'm going to do a live for everybody at some point. I get really nervous doing lives. I don't know why. But yeah, I just get really nervous, mainly because it's just me and I typically don't have people on. But maybe I'll find a guest. Ray Hermosillo, I've promised him for a while. Me and him would hop on and chew the fat. I might hit him up, see if he wants to come on and talk. But yeah, it's just really sad to think either way. The trauma that they've been through in the past week is going to be something that stays with them forever. And if it's a bad outcome, it's just going to make that worse. If it's a good outcome, still trauma for everybody. So, man, our lives can change in a second. And we have no clue it's coming, so we gotta remember to be grateful for if you're in a good spot, be grateful for it, you know? Because not everybody is. All right, guys, we are going to yeah, everybody loves Ray. Yeah, just now, maintaining that presence, Afton, a week later. Over a week now, because she was taking, 2 AM or something, so yeah, your mom's 82, lives alone, is worrisome. Good neighbors though, but that's also what makes people feel secure. We do get very comfortable in our little quiet homes. For me, I have cameras on every corner. If a bug comes on my property, I'm gonna know it. And then I used to be very anti-gun, but not anymore. I'm locked and loaded. So, and then I have a dog that would probably eat your limbs off if you came in an aggressive way. You came in during the day and like I greet you, it'd be fine, but you came in here to do harm. That dog turned into Cujo real quick. You might lose a limb. All right, guys. Well, we're going to end it here. So thanks again, Kelly, for gifting that. Appreciate you so much. And if anything pops up, look for a link. I'll post it on the socials and I'll still retweet things as they come out. But right now, nobody's tweeted in, an hour or so. So everybody's just hanging out there sweating in the Arizona sun. All right, y'all. We'll see you soon.